All right, good morning. We're live. This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. And I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Darren Guai, coming to us from Maine. Hey, Darren, how are you?
We're good. It's a nice day here in Maine. It's a balmy 72 here today.
Oh, nice. Very
Yeah.
nice.
So that's like it's like a heat wave for us.
hmm I went
So
for my walk this morning, and I thought it was going to be a little cooler, but it's warm and the sun's out and blue skies where I am.
what is it? What's the temperature there?
I didn't even look at the temperature. Before I went walking, it said that it was going to be like 60 something, but I would guess it's high 60s or low 70s. I mean, the
What
sun's out beaming
is
down.
it? Is it nice out there all the time? You get nice weather all year round?
Relatively speaking, to other places in the country, yeah, we do. It's
Well, yeah,
Southern
like here.
California. Southern California.
Yes, California is weird, right? Like they have all kinds of different climates, don't they? Like some
Right.
places get snow during the winter, and then I mean, you're what, LA?
Yeah, LA County.
So you don't get snow, correct?
No snow. Although in some parts of LA County further north, I've heard that, like in the Lancaster area or Palmdale area, they get snow on the rare occasion. But if you want to go get snow, you're probably an hour from it in the San Bernardino Mountains. So, it's close. It's one of those things, you're an hour from the snow and you're an hour from the beach.
So any weather you want, you're an hour away. You could be
Yeah.
to the desert,
Basically,
you could be to the mountain, you could be to the snow, you could be to. You
right.
can't really beat that. That's pretty
Right.
cool.
So the only thing, when it's low 60s here, low 50s, we're like, oh, it's really cold.
Oh, you got a sweatshirt on and all of that.
Yeah.
In Maine, if it's in the 60s, everybody's got tank tops on, shorts. It's pretty crazy. It is really, but I mean, it gets hot in the summer. Like I don't know what it gets there, but it's hot here in the summer. Like 90, 100 degrees in July. June,
Right.
July. Um, but
I went to college in Los Angeles County out by the beach in a place called Westchester, which is really near Playa del Rey Beach. And my first year of college, I had a roommate that lived down the hall from me. And he was from Alaska.
oh, geez.
He grew up and went to high school in Alaska. And, when I always saw him, he was always sweating. And I didn't know what to make of it. Maybe the guy's drinking, maybe he's on drugs and blah, blah, blah. At the end of the first semester, he came by to say goodbye to me. And I said, well, hey man, what's the problem? You homesick or, what's going on? He goes, no, it's too hot here for me. He goes, I'm always sweating.
Yeah, well, his blood is probably so thinned out, right?
I guess he's, your perfect weather of 72 degrees, or 75 degrees. It's just too hot for me.
Mm.
You know.
Well, isn't that what is it? San Diego is supposedly the perfect weather all the time, right? Is that what they say? That's the best
It
place on
was
the.
well, it's really from what I've heard, Santa Barbara and then San Diego. Santa Barbara is a little north of about 2 hours north of Los Angeles, and that has almost, they say, perfect weather. My ex-wife and law partner has an older sister who has a winery up there. There's a lot of wineries in that area, and it's perfect weather for growing grapes and living. And a lot of very well-to-do people move up into that Santa Barbara area because of the weather. So there's a place, I think it's called Montecito, which is right below Santa Barbara, which is like the Beverly Hills of that area. And a lot of famous people have homes up there. And it's still kind of close to LA. So if you have to drive down to LA or Hollywood or whatever, you can still do it in about 2 hours.
I was out there in 2015 when it was one of the bad fires they had. And I was in Calistoga, and that place was I don't even know, was that Northern California or
I think so.
It's right there where the wine valley, the Napa Valley, I guess, or something like that's around there. I don't know.
That's a little further north. A little
Is it?
further north. Yeah.
So this place was like 1950s classic. Like they had the roadside safari, and like the
Hmm.
petrified forest was there. There was some geyser. I don't know. It was the craziest place I've ever been. It was like 1950s or 60s. The family vacation got stuck there. Like the roadside attractions and everything. But that too, the town Calistoga had like the mud bath hotels, and I guess a bunch of famous people come there and they take get mud packs, and they get all the mud is save their life and clean them crystals and all that stuff. That was a weird place for me to be.
Have you been to Los Angeles, the LA
I've
area?
no never been to. I've been all around it. I've been to Joshua Tree. I rock climbed out there, down in 29 Palms and stuff. I was in Calistoga, San Francisco, but never Los Angeles.
Last Sunday, I had a dinner with um, a woman by the name of Amanda Cisco. Amanda used to be a host on one of our shows, and she lives in Virginia. And she was out here visiting her fiance, who is a private military contractor who was doing work in San Diego. And we actually met in the middle in Orange County and had dinner. Um, but she comes out here frequently because of her fiance, and I think she really likes Southern California and the weather, compared to Virginia.
Yeah, well, I tell you, I went to college in Pittsburgh, and that was awful. Pittsburgh was terrible. I mean, it rained constantly for the 2 years I lived there. I think it was sunny maybe a handful of those days. It was terrible. I felt like I was in England. It's just rain and rain and rain and rain. So, I mean, I'll take where I am. I'll take it. Maine's not too bad. We complain about the winter. We complain about the summer. It's too hot in the summer. It's too cold in the winter. Why do we do this? We stay in here. It's terrible.
Hmm.
But overall, it's not that bad. At least we can have a white Christmas. We haven't had a white Christmas in quite some time though. The snow is getting further and further into, like, now we're not even getting snow until January if we're lucky. Where when I was a kid, right after trick or treat, it would be snowfall. October, November, Thanksgiving, you definitely had snow. Christmas for sure. But
Hmm.
now, so I think that's probably part of the problem with kids and their respect and stuff, because they don't even have snow to shovel. They don't even have those petty little jobs for the chores anymore because the weather's changing so much.
Right, right, right.
Um,
Well,
so
as our producer told us before the show, our guest from the state of Massachusetts had a medical emergency.
hopefully they're all right.
So we don't have a. I think Grace said that it was her child. They had to rush to the emergency room. So our prayers are with
Yeah.
them, and hope things turn out okay.
So we know
Um,
CPS didn't take their kid
well,
because apparently they have one.
well, that's a big assumption. Maybe they
Right.
took
Right.
five and left one, or maybe they
Yeah.
just
Right.
returned them, or who knows?
Hey,
It could
so
be.
you left me with a task yesterday. I
Mhm.
was thinking that a good thing for you to do would be your book. I think you should give your book away, but I think you should autograph it to whomever wins whoever wins your whatever you plan on doing to get them to, whoever wins, or however the winning is developed or handled. I think you should personally autograph your book to someone and send it to them. That's what I think.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to and I'm going to need some help, Grace, on doing this. So hopefully you're listening. How about this? At the end of every show, everyone that's watching on whatever platform we are, if they post their email, Grace will capture it, um, and Grace will contact them for their, send an email to get their address from them, and we'll mail them that book, autographed copy.
See, look at that. It's that easy. I don't understand why everybody has such a hard time with everything. I think you're a very easy man to get along with.
Or I can just we can send them a digital copy of the book,
Oh,
or we can send them an audio copy of the book.
yeah. And each one of those you could do, if you send the audio copy, you could do a little, hey, Darren, this is especially for you. I mean, that wouldn't be too difficult to do, right?
No, not at all.
That would be pretty cool, I think. I think that would
Okay.
be really cool. I mean, I would show it off. I mean, I have TV shows with you now, so I don't need to do that. But if I had to, just say, hey, look, it's Vincent Davis is talking to me on this, it'd be cool. The book's worth it too. The book's great. I got that book a long time ago, but
I'm about to put out the second edition.
are you? What's included in this one?
Just
Is it
updates
updates?
on law and strategy. You know, I told you this one time, and I really meant it. You know, the longer I practice law, the more I learn. The more I think about things, the more I learn. I want to give you an example of something. Not too long ago, I did a trial in front of a judge who I thought was going to be just terrible for my position, for my client's position. And at the end of the trial, the judge gave the ruling, and it may have been one of the best thought out rulings I've ever experienced or heard of in a juvenile dependency CPS case. Now,
Uh,
I didn't agree with some of the conclusions,
right.
but in terms of analysis and the way it was thought out, I mean, I was shocked. I was shocked. It showed me that some very careful consideration went into making the decision that the judge made. And you know how you start a case and you have your prejudices and your thoughts about how things are going to go.
Mhm.
Um, it wasn't like that at all.
Wow.
It wasn't like
Do
that at all.
you find when the judges write their, what do they call that? When they write their
Decisions.
decisions, do you find that to be more or less accurate in terms of how you thought it was going to be when they ruled that way, or do you sometimes be like, "Holy crap! Why would they even Why would they have thought that?"
Sometimes I think that. I mean, it's all across the board from I completely disagree or I completely agree, and then everything in between. You know, it's interesting how, there's an old saying you have four people on each corner of an intersection. Okay. Accident happens. They all see the accident. That you get four stories of what happened, four different stories of what happened.
Right.
So, kind of being in the courtroom is sometimes like that as well. Depending on, your vantage point. And, one of the things I learned from Jerry Spence was this. And a lot of people don't want to acknowledge this because they just know they're right, which is very dangerous. Jerry says you got to realize you're going to get four different stories from the same event, and you have to realize what to do to try to make people, judges, jurors, decide in your favor.
Right.
You know,
It's got to be a tough situation. You're going into a room full of, well, somewhat strangers, because I mean, do you pick your jury, right? You know some things about, I've never done this. I don't know how jury trial works, but what do you get, a write out of these people? And is there like a questionnaire or something that a
yeah,
potential
it,
juror will fill out, and
you know,
you'll go in and look at it and say, okay, get rid of this guy, or
yeah, it's all different from court to court, and then state and federal court is a lot different. Um, I'll tell you a story. I did a criminal trial, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, maybe longer, here in Los Angeles County, and the jury voted in my favor on the issue for my client. Not guilty,
mm,
and the most important issue, in the case. And I was able to talk to some of the jurors afterwards. And it was like that example that I just gave you. Four witnesses at each different corner saw different things. Now, even though they voted for my client not guilty, um, it was interesting to listen to why. You know, each of them, the few that I talked to, I didn't talk to all 12. Each of them that I spoke to, they had different reasons, and
right,
a couple of them had reasons that I had never thought of.
right. Like,
Like,
whoa, I
oh
didn't
my
even
God, I
see
never,
that.
I didn't, yeah, right.
Right. Right.
Because you get into the trial and you're kind of focus, but there's shit happening all around you.
Right. And not even to ready pick that up. I mean, that must happen more often than not, because you're so focused on what your strategy is and how you're going about things that, things like you said are happening all around you, and you're not even realizing that the prosecutor said something yesterday that one juror thought was, forget it, we're going with Davis's client because this prosecutor said something, you didn't even hear it, and just continued on pounding out your thing. That's just crazy how those courtrooms work. And and the amount of thinking that you have to do when you're in a courtroom, because you somewhat have to pay attention to that, and you somewhat have to like make note to some things like that, like, oh wait, this prosecutor just said that, so that might sway my juror a little bit, like, keeping what you think your idea is on track, like it's got to be a tough thing. Like, how do you maintain like keeping on track, if you will, with so many other things going on around you?
Hmm. It's difficult. It's very difficult to do.
Hmm. What is your most out of the blue, like, holy crap, I won or I lost story?
I this is years ago, decades ago. I did a trial in CPS court for a woman who I just knew we were going to win. I mean, I just, but I went through the steps and I did. I thought a great job, and the court made a ruling against me. And I mean, not even a little bit. It was like totally against me. And so I was a little concerned about what had happened. So I filed a notice of appeal, you know, and the client couldn't even afford to pay for the notice of appeal for the appeal. But I felt so strongly about it that we did the appeal. And then the more and more I thought about it, the more and more I thought I wasn't going to win the appeal, but I did it anyway. And I kind of forgotten about the case, kind of put it out of my mind.
Right.
And months later, and appeals generally happen, within a time frame, but months later, even after the usual time frame, I get a call from a colleague, another attorney who practices in this area. And he says, "Hey, Vinny, I just want to congratulate you." I'm like, "Congratulate me on what?" You know, um, he says, "You won that appeal." Now, at the time, I was doing a lot of appeals, so I didn't know which one he was talking about. And he told me the case name and everything, and I was like, "Oh, you're kidding! I won?" He goes, "Yeah, you won. You got." And the judge on the case, always was a really nice guy, and uh, every time I appeared in front of him, he would then say, he would see me walk into the courtroom, and he would say, "Oh, good morning, Mr. Davis. Good afternoon, Mr. Davis. It's appealing to see you."
It's appealing to see you. That's funny. That's real
Yeah.
funny. Now, are they always, if you, okay, so if you get an appeal decision, are they always supposed to write a decision with their appeals? Are they supposed to, or can they just say, hey, we're not overturning your appeal?
In California, they write an opinion. Now the question becomes whether the opinion's published to become the law of the state, or not published and just become the law of the case. There are a lot of appeals that I've done that aren't published. They
But
don't.
there is an opinion on it. There is
Yeah,
a,
there is
they
an
rate
opinion,
it.
and you can look up the opinion. But here's the thing: if an opinion isn't published, you can't use it as precedent in the next case or in a future case.
I
It's
see.
not precedent; it's just the law of the case. If they publish it, it becomes the law of the state. And I would guess it's the same for your state as well, although I'm not 100%
Right.
positive.
Well,
But that's
again,
how they
for
do it.
instance, in my case, they did not give an opinion in the appeal. They just said we find the facts were as were, and that was it. It's a one paragraph thing, and that's it. That's all they said in my appeal. There's no justification to why or what or any of that type of thing. It was just, we just say the judge was right in what they did. And there were many, 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 as you know, there were many things that were justifiably incorrect in that case, and they just said no. So that's why I had asked that, because it seemed funny, because I had looked, and it took them a while to even put it on the website. They had other decisions surrounding it when they put it on the website, and then I think it was 2 or 3 days later, they actually put it up on the website and publish it, but there had only, like I said, it was a paragraph that just said that they found in favor, and then they grouped my wife and I together, which previously we in our cases were separate, which I found a little strange too. It was always her against the state or me against the state, and in the appeal they grouped us together, and they said that they found her and I that our appeals were no good, and they put it into one thing, which I thought that was very strange too. Uh, so I don't know. That's kind of the basis of my question there. Like it just something seemed awful fishy or funny or just not right about those things. So thank you for clarifying that. It gives me something more to look into for sure.
But you know what? I don't know what the practice is in your state, right?
Right. No,
They may,
absolutely. But I know by my own eyes and looking at seeing what's around it, and like every other case has an opinion attached to it or a reasoning or
right, an
whatever.
opinion. Yeah.
Right. And ours just says nope, and that's it. It's a paragraph. That was it. And, which our briefs that went in are 50 something pages, or whatever, 40, 50 pages, and then it comes back as a paragraph as your finding, like no reasonings why, no case law to go with it, no nothing. So I thought that was kind of odd, but who knows? Something to look into, some toilet reading, I guess.
Yeah.
And we'll figure that one out. So you talked about going in and republishing your book. What's the noticeably different something, a standard or guideline that made you say, like, look, I got to revamp this thing because this has changed?
Well, when I first wrote that book, I wrote it because someone asked me to. And it's kind of a 30,000 foot overview. Okay. So if you have a case, it'll give you general ideas about issues and what to do and what to talk to your attorney about. But the second edition is going to go trying to be it's going to keep those 30,000 foot explanations, but then it's
Right.
going to try to dive into and drill down into some of their very specific, laws and arguments and that type of thing.
Right.
So, it's going to end up being, a lot more pages. I don't know if
Right.
that's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah,
Well,
there,
I know I read your book, and I know that anybody that's listening definitely should pick it up. And not saying that they can go and represent themselves, because that's not what your intention is for this. I think it's more of an awareness thing, right? Like, hey, pay attention to these things that you need
right,
to along your way, like kind of know what to expect in these situations. That way, if
right.
your public pretender is leading you down the wrong trail, you can kind of pull them on track with you if it's possible or whatever, just a way to,
Yeah, in law school, they call it issue spotting. And it's to help you spot the issues in your case and to have a discussion with your lawyer. By no means is it a book or meant to be a book or a guide on how to do your own case. And I've told you, and you've heard me say this, I never advise people to do their own case. I don't care where they are or what the circumstances. If they're not a lawyer and they're not trained in CPS cases, it's basically suicide. Now,
right.
I do admit this. Out of, let's say out of every 1,000 cases, will somebody represent themselves and win? Yeah. Yeah. But what's that percentage? And
Right.
if this is the most important case in your life, do you want to bet on that very low percentage?
Right.
Have
Just,
you
I
ever
mean,
been have you ever been to Vegas? Las
of
Vegas?
course.
Okay. Have you ever
Yes.
played blackjack?
Of this, my game.
Okay. So if you look down at your cards and you have a king and a 10, and the dealer's one card that you see is a 5, do you take a hit?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because you know that dealer's going to have to hit on that 5. So you might, or you're assuming that the dealer has a 10 underneath that 5. So they have to hit on, the rules are. So you stay at your 20 and you say, dealer, take that card.
Okay. Now, you and I have never talked about this, but I'm going to tell you something. I now know from that explanation that you know something about blackjack, but you're not an expert. And you probably thought you were an expert. Let
No,
me
no, no. I
let me
just know
let me
that.
tell you.
I
Do
just know
you
from
know
experience. Those are
do,
my,
do, do you know what the probability of you hitting 21 if you take a hit?
No, I do not know off the top of my head.
It's a little less than
Well,
5.
4 to it would be 4, so 54 to 1 or something like
It's a
that, right?
little. There's 52, right? 52 now.
52 to 1
Okay.
or something times
But,
whatever combination. So probably
well,
quite a
it's a little less than 4%. Now, here's the question. You got $10,000 riding on that. Your last 10,000 riding on that blackjack hand. Do you want to go with the 95% probability, or do you want to go
right,
with the 5% probability? Because you could hit an ace,
right.
right?
Or yeah,
So,
that's it. You got 4 cards, right?
right. So you want to go with the 95%, right?
Correct.
You don't want to play hero and go for the 5% with your last $10,000,
No, you do not.
right?
Correct.
Well, that's what it is like if you represent yourself in a juvenile dependency case. You're
Gotcha.
if you go with an attorney, you have a 95% chance of doing much better than if you go with yourself. You
Right.
got a little less than 5%. Now, it's not 0%, right? It's not 0%, and I'm not saying it's 0%. It's just the odds.
But it's darn close.
Right. But a lot of people want to represent themselves because they feel that they want to be vindicated. They feel that they want to be right. They feel that this is a personal issue.
Right.
And I get that, but let's not let our emotions make bad
Well,
decisions.
see, I think that's when lies the problem with that is because, you feel like you are, well, I know for me, for instance, like you feel like you know this case better than any other person, like you've been along with it. That's your child. So you feel like the best shot that you have is whatever you're willing to put on the line for it because, there's that feeling of, like, Mr. Davis isn't going to put everything on the line. It's not, his kid, it's me, so I don't know, I'm saying that you wouldn't, but I'm saying like in general, that's the way I think people's mentality is. Like, if I don't go up there and defend myself and show these judges, then I'm never going to be able to get out what I'm trying to say or whatever. And chances are good you're not going to get it out anyway. Because like you said, there's ways that the courtroom operates. It's not a free for all that just because you're representing yourself, you get to go up there and say, Judge, listen to this crap that's been going on. They don't want to hear it. Like they'll give them 90 seconds or 7 minutes for a testimony and that's it. Like there's your shot. So to get a lawyer like you say, okay, I have 7 minutes to use my time effectively and to give the judge what they need to hear to release me or to win this appeal, or you have me, for instance, going up there and saying, okay, I got 7 minutes and all I'm trying to do is convince the judge that I'm a great dad. Well, he don't care that I'm a great dad. That judge was there ruling on facts. So yeah, I understand that, like to spend the money on someone like you is as far supersedes the, because just that in itself, knowing what the judges want to hear is worth its weight in gold, because they don't care if you're a good parent. That's not what the argument is. And especially in appeals, because now when you're in appeals, you're talking about strictly the law or the way that the law is imposed, in most situations, like, so now it's not even a matter of hearsay or anything else. It's a matter of fact and record, what you're challenging. And, most people don't have a goddamn clue what the heck they're doing when it comes to those things,
You,
so.
Darren, I'm in the middle of writing another book on CPS, and I'm going to probably need your help and the help of a lot of listeners or viewers. Here's what the book is. It's a compilation of stories about a person's story and what they learned from it, the do's and don'ts, from
That's a
a
great
parent's
book.
from a parent's point of view, not from the lawyer's point of view.
Right.
Okay, from the parent's point of view. So what I'm thinking about doing is doing 10 per volume and just doing a series of them.
Oh, that'd be really cool.
And what I plan on doing is doing the stories of people that are hosts currently on one of my
Yeah.
shows. I don't know if you've ever met her or talked to her, but I represented a woman. Her name is Cynthia Becker. She recently got married, so I forget what her married name is now, but she does the horror story show.
Yeah. I've never
And
met her, but I know of her. Yes.
and we did her case, and To be honest, I never thought I was going to win that case. And
Another one of those.
yeah, and we had nothing to lose in that case.
Right.
And then the stars aligned, and she got her kids back.
You saw the shot and took it.
Right. Um, so I've done other cases similar to hers in front of that same judge, and it didn't turn out that way. So I don't know what happened, from my perspective as a lawyer, but
Right.
I'm sure she has her own story to tell, and
Right.
that's what I want to do. And if you want to be one of those stories, let me know. You and your wife.
Yeah, man. I'm down with that. I want everybody to hear these stories and hear these,
Now, here's something I'm going to tell you that may surprise you. I bet you and your wife have two different stories.
I bet you that we do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Everybody's from, has different perspective. I'm involved in a case right now. This is an interesting thing. I think my client has finally has understood this issue. At the beginning of the case, I told them I can't represent both of you, right? So I ended up representing one parent, and I referred them to another lawyer to represent the other parent. And I think that they thought that since they were a couple living together, that they were in this together, meaning they were similarly situated, meaning that they were in the exact same position. And because of the facts of the case, they're in totally different situations, right? Totally.
Right.
So one lawyer tells his client one thing, and then I tell my client something else, and they can't as a couple because they're living under the same, well, they were living under the same roof. They're not now, but at
Right.
the time when they were living under the same roof, um, they thought, why are we getting different advice from the two different attorneys? Because you got a whole different story going on.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why the lawyers can't represent, one lawyer can't represent two parents in the same CPS case.
Okay, it makes sense now. That
Right.
makes absolute sense. Yep.
Right. Now, if you and your wife were in a car and you got run over by an 18-wheel rig truck, one lawyer can represent both of you.
Right, because one of us are squashed.
Right. But in your case, in your CPS case, I bet you and your wife had different lawyers.
Yeah, we had different lawyers, and the differences of what her jeopardy was me, where my case was my podcast and the things that I did, but the only jeopardy that she had to deal with was me.
Right.
So like there was two different ways of combating and going into court. Also, like it was the complexity was really interesting, and how it was is just terrible, and it made no sense. None of it still to this day makes any sense to me, and that's why I'll continue to fight this, and that's why I continue to fight for other parents, because I know that my story is not the only one. I hear time and time again same things happening to the same type of people, same game plan, everything right through to the end. Yet the story is just a little bit different, like the names of players are just different, but the rest of the stories seem the same. And I'm sure you hear a lot of the same too. I mean, there's always the different players, obviously, and the different number of kids, but the scenarios are all the same. Like, oops, father got caught with drugs. Now drugs take over the family. Now this, and this. It's starting to seem like they're setting a standard. Just like in the olden days, drunk driving. You got pulled over, the cop would give you a ride home. Now it's absolutely not. So when someone calls you up and says, "Mr. Davis, I got drunk driving," you're like, "Okay, I need to fill out a form this. I need to fill out a form this. We need to do an affidavit for this." Like it's almost like it becomes a standard. And I'm seeing that is kind of like what CPS is starting to do with people. Is it's okay, drug use, bang, that's it. Doesn't matter if that's a one-time thing or whatever. It's going to be just like this. It's going to be the same pattern, and they're never going to get out of it. Like that's just they're stuck in this thing. Like that's what you're hearing over and over in these stories, are either drug use or domestic violence. You're not hearing any stories about children actually being harmed or neglected. Those are not stories. Now, whether it's the parents are too shameful to actually step out and admit their wrongs in front of people, I mean, because parents get angry and they spank their kids. That's not beating your kids. That's not abuse of your child. That's correcting your kids in wrong behavior. So those things to a degree are acceptable. Now, if your kid's going to school with broken arms and black eyes and falling off the white picket fence, well, we have problems. However, if it's just one of those issues, then these people need to stand up too with this movement and say, look, I spanked my kid on the butt because he hit his sister or he lied or whatever, and the CPS took my kid. Because we're not hearing those stories from anybody and anybody trying to help specifically the movement. Like it's this. So I don't know if it's just because the movement is just attracting drug and domestic violence parents, or is it because these parents of um, actually that have been charged with abuse have actually like been involved in some sort of hitting of the child? I mean, do you get a lot of cases where the child has actually been abused and you're defending the parents? Or, I mean, how does that work?
I would say I don't get a lot of those cases. Um, you know, as I think about it, and I don't know, remember, people only come to me that believe they're being wrongly treated by the system.
Right,
So it's not a fair population of what actually ends up in court.
right,
No, I said this the other day and um, got a couple emails about it. Look, there's child abuse in the world. It does happen.
right,
The problem is that I think the child abuse laws have been overreaching in what they're trying to do in taking kids away from parents.
right,
So, I don't get a lot of cases where there's an actual injury to the child. I do get those cases, but they are not the large percentage of people who call me.
right,
Okay, sometimes, and here's the usual physical case that I get. If the child has been injured, it's one of those. Well, the kid was on the bed, rolled off, bumped the head, and that we took the kid to the hospital, and the hospital and the social worker saying, "Well, we beat the kid on the head." I get a lot of those cases,
right,
where allegedly the parents are being falsely accused of, that type of injury.
right.
Like Mr. Provost says, a lot of false accusations. A lot of false
Mm,
accusations. So I have a case coming up for trial in a county here in California where I believe that is the case. And the lucky thing about it is that the parents, well, the grandparents, we forced the child to be placed with the grandparents.
yeah.
So, and the grandparents have a good relationship with the parents.
So,
So, Mr. Guai, we're coming to the end of our show.
yeah, that was a nice little meet and greet, I guess, if you will. That was a good
Yeah,
little nice little fun, relaxed version of the secret, how to fight CPS and win. We got some business done. We figured out what you're going to give away to people and everything. So that's good. We got that. So people got that to look forward to.
right.
Um,
Okay. Well, we're going to see everyone tomorrow at 9:30.
yes, sir.
You
I'm
know,
off to the dump.
Here's the thing. Are you up to doing the show any earlier?
Yeah, you tell me when. I mean, because
Orig-
it's noontime. It's 12:30 here,
I
one
know.
o'clock now.
I know. I
So
originally changed the time to accommodate some, previous co-hosts.
yeah,
They're not doing these shows on Saturdays anymore. So if you can do it earlier, I'm going to talk
yeah.
Miss-
You
to
just let me
Grace
know.
about moving it up earlier here in California. Okay, I'll let you
Okay.
know. All right,
Alrighty.
everyone. We'll see everyone tomorrow at 9:30. Have a
Alrighty.
good Saturday. Bye bye.
Have a good one, Mr. D.